In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about how ServiceNow's platform can be used to accommodate the use case you see here on the screen. Of course, the platform can really accommodate any use case for pretty much any context and any process you may have. But we'll go ahead and talk specifically to this one here. So, land purchases and development is the context, and I spent a couple hours putting together just a sample application that shows some of the building blocks that exist in the platform to support this type of use case. And so the first thing I did was put together a table that would store this type of information. So you can see here we've got things like what was purchased, where, for what price, when it was purchased, who purchased it, that type of thing. And so I'll switch off of this screen here that talks about the use case and just show you. I put some sample data in here as well, but I click on this land management application, and in particular this option for land here. And what this does is show you a grid full of sample data that I loaded in here for this particular use case. But the idea here is that you have a table, you'd store this information as it comes in. So likely something like a request would occur where someone wants to purchase land, and then there'll be a process that's executed to actually get that land purchased and then potentially ultimately developed. So as you look at this screen, again, this is sample data, but the list capabilities in ServiceNow make it very easy to filter this kind of information and dig into what you might want to look for. So things like state, you could just come up here and click on show matching and see all land in the state of South Carolina that's currently in the in the hopper somewhere to be worked on. And you can see the different land status. So right now we're on state of South Carolina, and let's say we wanted to see everything in South Carolina that was in review. Just a couple of right clicks, and there you are. You've got you've filtered the list down. You can see the breadcrumb trail that's been built up here. But very easy to take really any kind of data, put it into this kind of UI, and start to easily filter it. You can also edit inline, etc. for these kinds of things. So it makes it very rapid to manipulate the data. So that's one thing I did, is just from a use case perspective, we're going to have to store this information. The other thing we're going to need to do is likely have some sort of a request process that will drive it from request and then ultimately through fulfillment. Of course, fulfillment in this case is something like a land development that gets completed. And so what I'll show you now is a workflow that I put together. Very simple, and again, it only took a couple of hours to do this, but what's happening here is when a request comes in for land, we're going to send it to the team that's responsible for reviewing the request and determining whether they want to approve it, kind of move forward with it or not. And so in this example that I'll go through, we'll approve it, and it's going to go through these 4 different task steps here. We're going to have to negotiate with whoever the owner is to purchase it. Ultimately, we'll purchase it, so there'll be some purchasing process that takes place. And then once we own it, we're likely going to go through some development planning process where we've got a team of folks that's going to look at the land, figure out what the best way is to lay out the lots, etc. And then once all that's done, likely we're going to go to development. I've simplified it, but that gives you a general idea as to kind of the modeling you might do for a process. And so what I'll do now is go down to the service catalog, and you could offer this through service catalog or through self-service. So this example, I'll go ahead and just show it through the catalog in the UI here. Let's come over here to services. All of these categories you see could be removed, changed, however you want. So this could just have a land development category, and all of the land development processes could live in that category. But for now, I've just put this in the services category just to make it quick to get through this. And I've got an option here for land acquisition request. So someone could click on that. This form pops up. This form, again, could be much more comprehensive than this, but for now, I'll just keep it simple. So let's say we want to buy land at 123 Smith Road. We'll say it current value is $150,000. We expect that we'll get $750,000 out of it, and we think we can purchase it for $125,000. And we'll say the target purchase date is February 10th. And ultimately, our plan here is we want to develop this land, and the decision maker on this is Fred Luddy. So that's what we're going to go with here. Again, all of this can be changed. We can take comments in. There can be additional values. So I'm just keeping this simple for our demonstration here. So once this is submitted, this is now going to kick off a process. So this is going to now add a new piece of land to our list of land here. So if we come back up to land management, click on land, you can see now that we've got this record in here for 123 Smith Road. It's in a state of in review. Here's the purchase price. I'll scroll over a little bit. Purchase date, current value, expected value, etc. So that's all displayed there. What I'm going to do now is actually click on that record and go into the form that shows some more detailed information. So this has been submitted, but what's the process? What's now going to happen to get this from, hey, we're interested in this piece of land, to approval and then through all the steps and ultimately developed? And that's where workflow comes in. And so as you look at the screen here, there's this show land workflow link. So this is, we'll click on that here in a second, but you'll notice we've got a couple of tasks down here. So we're waiting for an approval right now from the land review team. What I want to show you is these tasks directly relate to what the workflow has inside of it. So I'll click on the link here for workflow, and this is showing you the runtime view of the process that's now executing for acquiring land. And so in this case, we're saying it's in a state of review. We're waiting for someone to approve it. And if we go back to that record, you can see under our approvers list here that Buster is our approver, and we're pending approval. And so you could actually approve this through mobile as well, but I'm not going to go show that right now. But you could approve this through mobile or through email. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and right-click and approve because I'm logged in as an admin. I'll go ahead and approve here. And then once I approve that, if we switch back to our workflow screen, you can see we were in a state of approval. When I refresh that workflow, now we've started the process of, because it's been approved, negotiation, then ultimately it'll be purchased, etc. So when I go back here and we look at the tasks in the task list, you can see that approval is now closed complete, and now we're on this land negotiation. And so, a set amount of time is going to go by. They're going to negotiate with the owner, and let's say ultimately they get it sorted out and they've got the negotiation complete, so they'll close complete. And they could keep notes on this task, etc. in here. So I'll actually close it, but I'll go into the task because this is a completely separate record. So they could put work notes in there. You could attach files. You can do whatever you want to make sure you keep track of all of the stuff related to negotiation in that particular record. But of course, it ultimately relates back to a particular piece of land. And now that I've refreshed this screen, you can see it's gone from negotiation. Now it's gone to the purchasing team for them to go ahead and make that happen. If we look at our workflow and I refresh the workflow, you can see we've gone out of negotiation because that was completed, and now we're at the purchasing step. We'll come down to purchasing. And again, just like the negotiation step, this is a separate record that's related to the land record. Anything related to the purchasing, so contracts, diagrams, any of that stuff can be attached. So you have the audit trail, and all that collateral is ultimately related to the land and easily found through the UI as you see here. And then if I refresh this, go ahead and reload the form, because we've closed that task now. So the purchasing is done. So now the land development team is going to look at this and start to think about what the best way is to lay the land out, set up the lots, etc. We'll go ahead and close that. Actually, before I'll do that, I'll show you the workflow. So we were on the purchasing. Remember, that was completed, and so now we're at the development planning, which is where we are here in our task. I'll go ahead and close that as well. We'll say the planning is done. So now that that's done, if we go back to our workflow, we refresh there. Now we're in development, which of course would be the last step. I'll reload this form. And now that's the last step that we're on. I'll go ahead and close that. And now that's completed. And if we look at the workflow, that's completed as well. So the point really is that to all of this tasking and workflow is that you have control, right? The platform gives you control to craft your process however you choose, store the data related to the process, store all the tasks, everything in the platform, and then ultimately, once you have all of this process done and you've walked through and you've developed the land, you're likely going to want some sort of a dashboard so you have visibility into what's actually going on out there. And so because we have the data in the platform, we can craft whatever types of dashboards are needed. So in this case, I put together a simple example of a land management dashboard. and maybe you want to see like, hey, let's show me all land that's currently in development, and I can expand that and see all of that. Or maybe I want to see the land that we're planning to resell, and I can expand and contract that. Of course, this is just a gauge that I've dragged and dropped onto the dashboard, so you can create these dashboards and put whatever you want on there. Land by decision maker, so this is just another graph that I've put on here that shows our various decision makers, and then I've stacked these bars so I can see, well, here, for example, this one here would be the completed projects for Aaron Hudson, completed for Fred, completed for John, purchased, etc. So you can see here down in the key here what these colors represent. I can click on any of these. So if I wanted to see land that Aaron Hudson currently had in negotiation, I just simply click on that, and boom, there's the records that relate that make up that particular slice of that bar chart. I can go back to my land management UI here, or dashboard, I should say, and go to any of these other gauges as well. So land by state, so if I wanted to see all the land in North Carolina, I could click there, or Florida, or South Carolina, or Georgia. Down here you can also see the different types of land that we have based on the plan and the potential value of the land. So we're going to hold it, we're going to develop it, we're going to lease it, we're going to resell it. Land by status. So again, these are just some examples I put together to give context, but however the data, whatever data you've captured inside of the platform and you're storing related to, in this case, land, you can surface it and display it in these various graphs pretty much however you choose. And then down here, the last thing I'll mention is just this cross tab where we've got the decision maker, and then you can see the different statuses that the land can be in, and then the average prices for that land. So that's it. Going back to our use case here. This use case can be accommodated quite well within the ServiceNow platform based on the different capabilities we have around storing information in our single database, orchestrating or managing your process through the workflow that I showed there, providing an interface for someone to go to the service catalog and request, in this case, some land to be purchased, and then following that process all the way through and keeping track of all of the various tasks and steps that occur. And so I'll leave it there. That's a simple example of how the platform can be used to accommodate this land purchasing and development process.